Welcome, warriors. How you doing? I am the Black Ribbon Warrior, your host, Lee. Um, I had stage 4 metastatic melanoma cancer, uh, tumor in the under my left arm. The lymph node was inflamed, and it reached my brain. And they had to do radiation, brain surgery, and then I went through 12 months of immunotherapy. And today we finished treatments up in December of 2022, and today I want to discuss, this is the end of January 2025. So, we're talking 2 years and a few days. Something that I've brought up before, and it's something called Cancer PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Cancer's traumatic, and when you have it in the brain like I did, and you have almost like a near-death experience of sorts, if I would have left it go, I probably would have died. You watch the hospital shows on TV, and the guys doing brain surgery, and they're talking and all that's great. And then what if he sneezes? Boom, you're done. There's been a couple on the shows that they don't make it through the surgery. So really, really pretty traumatic. And life as I know it completely changed, upside down, inside out. I mean, as many of you know, cancer touches every nook and cranny of your life. It leaves nothing untouched. And what I'm finding is there's a lot of still cognitive issues that I have. Keeping my mind on task. Multitasking's out the window. Driving, I can do short distances, but if there's any kind of traffic, my anxiety's through the roof and I start to panic. Any kind of long drive, I'm out. I can get about an hour and a half with no traffic, but the littlest bit of traffic, and I'm done. I'm just done. And then I'm whipped. I'm tired. I have to lay down in the back seat for the rest of the drive. I have a lot of questions and anxieties and confusion and stuff around why my journey wasn't as bad as what other people's has been. I always kind of thought that I had broad shoulders for a reason, and to carry more weight, and this was pretty big. And it's not the person that is refusing to let go of the past, but the past refusing to let go of the person. And that little quote really kind of summed it up for me, because I'm in a completely different lifestyle than what I was, due to the no multitasking, the confusion, the brain fog, the lack of driving, the lack of being on ladders, that kind of stuff. There's no job. I just can't work. I can do some things, but then when it gets overwhelming, then I'm done. So what I wanted to kind of talk about was about this PTSD, and if anybody has anything they want to add to it, feel free to shoot a comment, or hit me up in the email. I'd like to connect with you. But this PTSD, It can be triggered by numerous things. Ones that I notice is um, loud noises. Just the other night the wife was trying to tell me something and she was really excited, but I couldn't match her excitement because I didn't know what was going on where she already knew. And she was asking me like question after question after question before I even figured out what was going on. So, and then the radio that the kids were listening to, they had it cranked up to where I could barely hear. And so that just made it an overwhelming situation. And I had to say, you know what, hey, stop. I've got to take a timeout. And that's part of this PTSD. And we've talked about the anxiety. If I'm riding shotgun in a car, like in the passenger seat, I cannot look out the windshield. I get so nervous and so anxious that it is terrible. Almost to the point where it's motion sickness. And I can only look out the side window for just a few seconds at a time. Otherwise, and I can't play on my phone because I get motion sickness. So I have to stare at the floor, which is very boring. So you get small comments that'll bring up a memory or a feeling that you had while you were in treatment, or I'm able to talk about it and I want to share it, but on the other hand, hours later after talking about it, my depression's up. And yeah, I've been dealing with depression for many years, and it seems to heighten around reliving this experience. I can get overly stressed over the simplest things. Like if we're packing up to go away for a weekend, right? Just a weekend. I have to start a list a week prior and check it daily to make sure that I don't forget something. And it's as simple as clothes and my medications. I'm a type 2 diabetic. I have some high blood pressure. So I have to make sure that I have all those that, I've gone through the pharmacy, gotten what I needed, and make sure I had all the stuff. So without that list, if I'm trying to pack it the morning of, I'm wandering around clueless, completely lost, no idea what I'm doing. And I don't know. And I have that where I walk into a room and have no idea why I'm in that room. Obviously, I went in there for something, but it's something with going through the doorway. I don't know what it is, but it causes me to forget whatever it is I'm doing. And that's very aggravating. And the more you get aggravated, the more brain fog comes around, I've noticed. So like too much, I mentioned it a minute ago, too much stuff at one time. If I've got the radio blaring like it was the other night, the wife's trying to talk to me, so she's talking over the radio, and she wants me to read something, comprehend it, and answer the questions as fast as she's firing them at me when I just got the papers in my hand. It's just too much. I have to put it away. And that's hard for her to understand how overwhelming that is. And it's hard for anybody else to understand unless you've been through it or are going through it. And, the whole point of this is you're not alone. You guys are feeling this, so have I. And, other situations that might clue somebody into you being in this PTSD, because you may not even know it. So some of the symptoms are, you're having nightmares, you're having survivor's guilt, and I'm a victim of that one. I wonder why everything fell in place for me and not for somebody else. And I don't know why. There's something else that the Lord wants me to do, and I don't know what it is. And I'm trying to do that. Do what I think I'm trying to do what I feel that He's wanting me to do. And it's confusing because not everybody's on board with the way I'm doing it, I guess. You get poor judgment. You kind of do things that you know are wrong. I had brain surgery and stuff, so I've had 3 traumatic experiences to my brain in a short amount of time. This is what the oncologist told me. And he said that it'll take time for it to heal. As long as your symptoms don't last more than 7 days, then your brain's healing. So I do exhibit poor judgment. I'll do things that I know is wrong, and I do them anyway. I do things where I don't have that, like I'm getting ready to walk across the street, and this car will come flying up to make the turn. Well, it's too late for me. I see them coming, but it's too late for me to slow down and stop. I got to keep going. So the car has to stop. So am I probably going to get hit by a car sometime? Probably. But fortunately, I'm a big enough fellow that I'll probably do a lot of damage to their cars. So as long as their brakes work, we're still going to go with it. And it's hard to differentiate between the past and the present because, we get lots of doctor's appointments and you forget names and you forget why you're going there, and then you get the scan anxiety, and then you're in the same buildings doing the same tests, and you see the same nurses, and it becomes this like a revolving door. And you're like, didn't we just do this? Like, I don't know. It's just I get that. The poor memory, the brain fog. There's a lot of stuff that I don't know that happened, that I think happened, and I'm like, did this really happen? And the brain fog's there. Boy, is it there. Some days it's worse than others. So another thing was you have a hard time of enjoying the world around you. So melanoma, it's, skin. So a lot of times it's created by a mole, that was cancerous, or sun damage. So for us that go out and walk during the day, and it's hot out and you don't want to wear, a bucket hat to cover your ears and sunscreen and, a long sleeve shirt, that can be damaging. And you're just saying, why am I, blessed with this disease that I have to cover myself completely up? Why can't I walk around shirtless and, not have a care in the world? Like, we go to the beach and you got people walking around in just a pair of trunks, or, the bikinis, and, here's a guy, the only thing you can see is his beard and his cheeks. Everything else is covered up. So you kind of say, why me? And that's a hard one to live with. You get the feeling of irritability and anger. There's times where, because this life post cancer is so confusing. Maybe it's just because I've had it in the brain, and I've got this stuff going on up there that it's hard to make sense of some things, and and it gets frustrating. And then when somebody comes in and they're trying to overstimulate you because they're hyper and whatever, and you're like, I just got to get away. Like, the dogs are going nuts because they kids are outside playing and they want to go join them or whatever. The overwhelming can turn to anger really quick, and that's hard to share with somebody. And I'm guilty of, poor self-esteem and poor self-image. That's partly due to the depression, and it gets heightened with this confusion and the brain fog. And you lose lack of interest. There's not much that I used to do before cancer that I'm really interested in right now. I had ambitions and daydreams of doing stuff, and I don't have those now. Now I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what to do. And there's nothing that I'm interested in to go and do. I mean, if that makes sense. What's another one? Avoidance. Yeah, if I'm in a situation or I'm around people that are doing things that I don't want to associate with, then I'm not going to be there. You get in where you fit in, and if you only fit in by yourself, well, then that's where you're going, right? So, which gets into the isolation and avoidance, spend a lot of time by yourself doing things. I'm reliving this traumatic experience and talking with y'all because I feel like that's what I'm supposed to do. Because it helps me make light of my situation, because now I'm seeing different aspects of it, and I'm talking about it, so I'm getting it off my chest, and hopefully somebody will find a little bit of comfort in knowing that they're not alone, and possibly I had it worse than what y'all did. That's for whatever reason, that always makes somebody feel good if you find somebody that's had it worse than you do. But those are just some of the things that I found with this PTSD, and it's a real thing. It's scary, it's confusing, and it can be brought on by a whole lot. And when you feel like, the waves coming in, the waves of emotion or confusion or overstimulation come in, and then when the waves of that come in and they wipe away all of what you thought you were building, like you thought you were doing right, and it wipes it all away and just makes you feel plain and dull. And I don't know. It's a real thing. People handle it differently. What I've found though is I'm able to share my experience with other people who are going through different types of cancer, and you see them kind of ease into the conversation, relax a little bit, because they know what they're talking about. Even if I went through immunotherapy and they went through chemo or some other kind of treatment. So there's comfort in that. How do I deal with the PTSD? Man, when I get overwhelmed, I have to go take a timeout. I will turn on Gunsmoke and force myself to lay on the couch and watch Gunsmoke. And then if that doesn't get it, then I go up into the bedroom in a dark room and take a half an hour to an hour time out and just sit and listen to I got a box fan that runs all the time, and I just sit and listen to that and try to calm myself. And I guess it's a form of meditation, but that's what I do. And I have to tell, my spouse, my wife, that I'm overwhelmed. I am overstimulated, and I'm confused, and I'm just a freaking wreck. And she okay, so that's where we're at today. Okay. But I also want to touch on the caregiver's PTSD. I cannot say that I know exactly what that's like because I was the patient and not the caregiver, but living with my wife and seeing that she was my caregiver, there's a PTSD there, because it was traumatic for her too. And every time there's a little bump in the road with the insurance, it brings back all those feelings. Every time there's a life and death conversation with another couple that we know that's going through it, or people we've met, there's that, you can see her take a breath and this anxiety start to build. And our caregivers aren't given enough credit during and after treatments. Sometimes I think, well, I know it was. For me, it was harder to watch her caregive for me than it was for me to be the patient. But how do we help the caregiver get through it? We're trying to be open and talk as much as we can and have hard conversations. And sometimes we've noticed that we get quiet and try to handle it on our own, and that doesn't work out so well because it builds and builds and builds. Then you have a minor bump in the road and it becomes a broken axle, kind of thing. So it becomes a major repair. So if you need someone to talk to about your cancer PTSD, or if you are a caregiver and need somebody to talk to, go look them up. Find somebody to talk to, because this stuff is crippling. It is not fun, to put it mildly. So I encourage you to reach out and talk to somebody. And hey, my warriors, you are not alone in this battle. And there's much more to come in your life that when you look back and you'll say, you know what, that was tough, but I'm tougher. And so far you've survived 100% of your toughest days. So stay strong, my warriors, and rock on. Y'all are awesome. Have a great week.